What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we begin our coverage of Apple TV Plus's hit TV show Foundation. Today we are covering Season 1, Episode 1, titled The Emperor's Peace. This is a very big day for the Core Podcast. Jim, Kyle and Luke are back together. We previously covered Dark Matter. We had an absolute blast covering that. We're covering Murderbot now as well. And we're here for Foundation. We've been waiting. Me and Kyle have not watched Foundation at all. We are the rookies. We're the newbies. Luke is a veteran and a lover of the TV show, and he's been pitching it to us. And our Discord's been pitching it to us for a while. So we're excited to finally get started. We're going to be covering season 1 and season 2 with me and Kyle as the rookies and Luke doing a rewatch leading right up to July 11th with season 3. It looks like we have season 1 coverage of episode 1, like today, episodes 2 through 5, episodes 6 through 9, and then we'll do the finale. And then by the time we get towards the end of the season 1 coverage, we'll let you guys know exactly how we'll cover season 2. And then, of course, like we said, July 11th will be the season 3 premiere, and we'll be covering that week to week. So if you guys are a fan of Apple TV, the Core Podcast, please hit that subscribe button. Check out our back catalog. We've covered Silo, Dark Matter, Masters of the Air, Severance, The Studio. Your Friends and Neighbors is still current with the finale. Foundation is obviously right now, and Murderbot. So it's all here for you guys. Hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, we're here, season 1, episode 1 of Foundation. Luke and Kyle, I don't know. How should we do this? How do you want to do this? You want to talk to the rookies first, or Luke, do you have a little bit of an opening statement for us?
Yeah. Let me just lay it out there because I feel like I always need to throw this caveat anytime we do these type of rooks and vets coverage, where I just want to say that while I'm considered the vet of this show and this podcast, I've only seen the show through one time. So like I caught up after season 2 was already out. I haven't been watching this live for years, so I'm more recent and newly veteran. And I also have never touched the books. I don't think either of us have. I've been recommended the books from a friend outside of the show, but the follow up that I need to say is that this show is one of the rare adaptations, very similar to Wheel of Time, where if you're a book reader, you tend to absolutely hate this adaptation. Not saying you hate the show for what it is, but it does apparently it takes a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? It changes a lot from the
Liberties?
books.
Takes
Yeah,
a lot of liberties.
exactly. Yes, it takes a lot of liberties when it's considering itself an adaptation. And I'll bring up some of the things that I know peripherally from being online, but I don't actually have any knowledge about the book. So we're really going to be looking at this whole thing through the lens of just TV show only. And with that being said, like the first time I watched this, I loved it. I think it's arguably one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time through 2
Ooh.
seasons. Granted, I'm more of a fantasy guy, but like this is right up there with like The Expanse, if you want to count the 100. Shout out to the
Hell
Bingetown
yeah.
homies that can consider that sci-fi. And I'll leave it to you guys to provide a lot of the entertainment here, because of course the people are here to hear your guys' raw reactions, throwing theories, and just how you guys feel about the different characters. I'll try and lead us the right way. And just like Jimmy said, this might be an episode where we dive more into the weeds compared to some of our other coverage until we're caught up to season 3, just because of the nature of how quick we have to go. This is going to be our only one-off coverage until we get to the finale of season 1. So we will break down the world building and some of our introductions here, but if you're just have it in your mind that like we probably won't get this in the weeds when we do our episode 2 through 5 coverage, just because of timing purposes. So passing it over to you guys, what is your initial just super high level take on how you thought the pilot went?
I can start because I think I have a quick correction for you. So, to be very pedantic, when you said that none of us have touched the books, I'm currently touching two of
Okay.
the books right
Mm-hmm.
now for our audio listeners. I have the first and second book. Actually, the second book that I have right here was a gift from, I'm sure, the friend that you were referencing, Luke Chase.
Yep.
Gave me the second book after he finished the series as both an act of friendship and goodwill, and maybe as a, let's say, I was gonna say lubricant, but that sounds very weird. So I'm gonna say maybe a push in the back to start the first book. Didn't happen, so that's neither here nor there. But I will say I've watched the first maybe 5 minutes of this pilot episode twice before, and just never made it past the rocks, the kids walking on the rocks for whatever reason. I feel like I usually end up starting it under the influence of something late at night and then go, I'll watch it tomorrow, and then don't end up watching it tomorrow. But I really, really enjoyed this.
Yep.
Again, recency bias is usually a plague of podcasts, but this is one of the best pilot episodes I feel like I've watched in a very long time. It gets a lot done. It introduces a lot of stuff. It introduces a lot of characters. It makes you very interested by the end of like, okay, I want to watch the next episode. You know, like a lot of things were set up. A lot of it was very fun to watch. A lot of it was very fun to learn about. And then also the implications of what's to come, I think were all just really, really, really well delivered. And I'm really excited to talk about this show moving forward.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, I am so in. I totally agree with everything you said, Kyle. I said it off podcast to Luke and Kyle. I am so happy that we get to cover 2 through 5, 6 through 9, and then 10 because I get to do some binging. Because after the pilot, I was like, my goodness, I want to hit next episode so freaking badly right now. Now, this is crazy. I want to talk to you guys about this a little bit. I do want to shout out our friends on the Discord because we do have some book readers, we have some show lovers, and we have both book readers and show lovers. Shouting or recommending this to us. We're so happy that we could finally cover it. If you guys want to check that out, bingetowntv.com/Discord, we're going to make our own feed. And Kyle, maybe we'll make a separate feed for Foundation in general, and then maybe Foundation, the Rooks and Vets version, so that we can talk to them about our thoughts, spoiler free. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll just do a book spoiler thread so people can
talk about
spoilers
that works
in that way.
So something that I will say is I'm surprised that I liked this so much, and I'm not surprised now. I'm surprised, Jim, maybe a year or two ago, because when Foundation was first coming out, I guess I just had the book readers in my ear from maybe social media or whatever it was, because I had a lot of people, maybe I was reading it saying it wasn't great. And maybe it was just them being mad that it wasn't an exact duplication of the books. So that's the only reason why I never started it. And then eventually, Luke, you were talking it up really big, and so were the Discord. And then we said, you know what, we're just going to wait for the podcast. So, like I said, I really, really enjoyed it. I love the characters. We have Dean Thomas. Hopefully, he stays as a character throughout the series. But they did very, very well with making you enjoy and learn about these new characters. You have some great visuals. My
Dude,
gosh.
how good was the CGI money for like the Star Bridge and just
Wow.
how Trantor looked? I remember the first time I watched this, it was amazing. It looked so good.
Even on Terminus with the vault and the little kid saying the ghost and the force field / whatever you want to call it that's stopping them. And yeah, let's just get into it. Let's go.
Okay. Wow, you guys just made me so happy because I was having the same exact thought that I think this is one of the best pilots of any like modern show I've seen. Like, and we'll break down the character by character. We'll go through the different planets, and I will do my best to just let you guys have the floor and just present the information. But one thing I will just point out right away, if you have seen the full show in the past, like there are 2 or 3 really good foreshadowing moments here that I don't even think I obviously will not call them out and bring them up, but there's really good rewatch value is what I'll say. Just take that as you will. But all right, let's jump into the episode and see what you guys think about it, because we're going to actually start off those first 2 scenes we get in the future on Terminus, which we later find out in this episode is the home base of where the Foundation will get started. We'll leave that final scene for the end, but just give me your thoughts. We've already been talking around it a little bit. We see the vault, we see Salvor, the warden, and then we get some name drops from our narrator Gail here, which includes Salvor Hardin, Hober Malu, and the Mule, which again, keep those names in the back of your head for the future season coverage. But what do you guys think of the initial take and it just saying 35 years? I guess after this scene says 35 years ago.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It's a great way to start the episode. I really do like the flash forward and then giving us the context a little bit later. We have Gail narrating, and as the viewer, when you first start, you don't realize it's Gail. You don't know any of the characters, but it really gets the mystery box in you going. It makes the wheels start turning right away when you have these little kids, and it's really cool visual with all the flags planted and them trying to see how far they can get. And it's just these kids basically saying like, let's see, can you do it? Let's see how far you can go. And you just see I don't know if it's hundreds, but a lot of flags. And then you see the effect on when they're trying to run across and plant the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think maybe I feel better about it. Not that I felt bad about it in the moment, but I think the end of the episode ties like this as an individual episode is so good, and that the first part of it ties in so well to the last part of it. It becomes this almost complete circle, which is just very satisfying. And obviously, like Jimmy said at the start, we don't know what the heck's going on, but we know something's up. And it's also funny. I mean, Kier just wants to see some tits, man. And at some level, you got to respect that,
Yeah.
He's just getting out there and doing what he thinks he needs to do. And then we got Polly. Polly's a boss. He's trying to push himself too. And all of that kind of being the way to introduce us to what will be, it seems like, a very major character being the warden, or Salvar Hardin. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll just put this out there too, that like you're seeing it right off the bat that there's going to be time jumps. We're in futuristic sci-fi. There's light speed traveling. There's jump ship traveling. There's, these huge distance. We know about the different emperors already, like the genetic dynasty that's going to be evolving as the show's going on. So they get very creative with how they keep some people, how they move on and describe it all. But this is really like the start, because we are jumping now back 35 years ago into where we're going to meet our main protagonist for now, being Gale on the planet Synnax, I think is what it's called. And to me, what this is just like a backwater, not technologically advanced or progressive thinking, just society, right? Like it's just water based. It seems like they're very religious, and we find out more about that religion, which I think it's like the seer religion, whatever it is. But the whole idea is that Gale is very special, and she is way more progressive and way smarter than the people around her, to the point where she wins a math contest that allows her to leave this planet. And it seems to be, you find this out throughout the episode, that it's against her family's wishes, because they're super religious, and she even goes ahead and becomes a heretic and has her religious symbolism pulled out of her. So do you guys have any initial thoughts about just seeing this planet, because it is just her home background, and it's going to be important to her as a character?
I mean, at the time, truth be told, not necessarily. At this point, it's so early in the episode, I'm almost more paying attention to maybe like the visuals and like the costume design and how things are looking. But it definitely gives her an interesting backstory. It becomes, I think, much more of a larger weight, let's say, on this story as we get into those later scenes, like you mentioned. So it will be interesting maybe to find out if she can travel back there, or if we'll ever get back here. It feels like a place that she'll be at some level comfortable to leave behind completely, because it's so inhospitable to her and kind of, let's say, for lack of a better term, her kind, like her and Harry, and them. So is it the last time we'll see it? Will she get to go back and have an emotional reunion with people? We'll get to see.
Yeah, it seems like the only people she's connected to and the only thing she's connected to on this planet is her parents, who she loves, and she's reluctantly leaving. But otherwise, I feel like she's very excited to leave and getting the chance to leave. I was thinking a little bit of Interstellar with the water planet, and just I don't know why I immediately think of that with sci-fi and seeing a water planet. But let me ask you this question, and I don't know fully if you can answer, but I think you should be able to. And when she wins this contest, and we find out that she solved the Abraxas equation, and that's why she's able to actually solve this equation that leads to winning the contest and then getting her scholarship or her invitation from Harry to Trantor, right? Okay, to Trantor. So my question to you is, in the beginning of this episode, when she's talking to her mother, and the mother says, "You know what? Talk to the seers. You can come back, or you could stay. Don't leave," because she's nervous and she's counting her numbers, which is crazy. That's awesome.
Prime numbers.
She says, right, the prime number. She says, no, you know what? I'm in danger here. Is she in danger because she's so forward-thinking, intelligent, and thinking differently than the seers, or was it because she decided to quote unquote become a heretic and pull the pieces out of her? What are they? The gems, or?
It's just religious symbolism.
It's just the symbolism, right? So she ended up taking them out. Is it a combination of both? Is it one or the other? Like, I didn't know if it was,
The question is answered later, and it's because she was so math oriented and just science based that she figured out that the tides were rising on the planet. It was going to make it inhospitable eventually. And then they were calling her a heretic. So she had to leave the religion. And that's it. Like, it's not really deeper than that.
So
So
that
she
she
had to
says
get
that
out
in this
there.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she
So she
stayed,
does
she
say
would have
in
been
this
arrested. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's just keep going forward because this is going to be our traveling moment to get to Trantor, which you do learn a lot here, right? Like, we figure out how the Empire is moving around different planets. You learn about the new species that they're called the Spacers, which are the people that
Yeah.
stay awake during the jump drives. And then we also get introduced to one of the Empire spies here who's clearly just following Gale around and trying to take the information. And the weird thing that happens is her waking up during the hyperdrive or the jump ship part of this, which is unique, and I'll leave it at that. But I don't want to put any, ideas towards you guys, but are there any thoughts? Because if not, we can just really just jump into the introduction of the rest of the characters.
The only thing I could think of is that they dropped the term, outliers, I think once or twice in this episode. It's mostly around, I believe, Salvor Hardin. But then I think the Emperor, Day, whatever we want to say, ends up mentioning the word, prodigy as well. And he is a very tongue-in-cheek, I would say, passive-aggressively sarcastic person. But I feel like some of those things might be connected. And again, there's always the second half of the episode, or maybe let's say the last quarter of the episode, there's really this emphasis on the fact that like psychohistory is kind of a study of population level behavior, but they mention it every single time that it can't predict individual behaviors. So that again speaks to this idea of the outliers and things like that. So that's the only possible connection I could really make. And again, obviously in the moment, I'm not making that. In the moment, I'm thinking this looks awesome because it seems like this like jump drive gyroscope is like creating its own black hole to like be able to warp gravity. And it was just like, whoa, this looks freaking cool.
And even the spacers look awesome with the CGI and the one spacer saying like, how are you awake? My only thought process here is definitely after the fact when I'm thinking over the whole entire episode, especially after we get towards the end of the episode, pretty much the final scenes. Pretty much exactly what you're saying, Kyle, with these outliers. Is there, a connection where if Salvor Hardin decided to go on one of these jumps, would this person be able to open their eyes and wake up as well? Would Gale be able to reach the vault in the same way as Salvor Hardin? Are they connected in a way where they are quote unquote outliers? And I've already said quote unquote twice this podcast, Luke. So everybody drink. But yeah, so maybe there's a connection there. But otherwise, I was just like, damn, this is sweet when I'm watching.
The most like base level, like elementary guess I could have would be that she's really smart. So maybe there's something going on that's special about her brain in general, and that it's able to resist whatever type of forces or like her senses in a way. Cause like, you got to think, how do the spacers do it? It's something to do with their biology. Is it something to do with their like central nervous system? And then maybe there's just something about her being a big brained baddie that just lets her be awake.
I like that. Big brain baddie.
I was hesitant to use it because they don't talk about how old she is, but you don't.
Oh, well, I'm not using it in that way. Yeah.
Okay.
I would use it in a bad, like saying badass, but maybe we'll just say badass. But
yeah, that's probably better.
I definitely don't. I'm definitely not using it like the term.
Whoa, Jimmy! Whoa, dude! How are you using that word, dude?
No, I'm saying the term that, as you said it, I took it as badass in my mind. So
yeah.
But I will say too, you distracted me.
Yeah,
Kyle.
I threw you off. Now you think about
You
bad.
threw me off, dude. Damn.
This is a really good moment where you get some world building dumps here by the spy who's taking Gale through like the Starbridge like airport. It's just kind of how I thought about it. And so we're at the planet of Trantor, which is the home base of where the Empire sits. This is going to be the most important planet for the time being. And one of the things that's just such cool world building is that there's like hundreds of layers of subterranean levels on the planet, and most of human civilization on this planet never see the sky. They're all under the
Yeah.
50 to 100 levels that we end up seeing throughout. But to me, that's like really cool. But the other piece that gets brought up here is the genetic dynasty that we're going to talk about over and over. And this is the three Cleons, which is always going to be dawn, day, and dusk. Dawn, day, and dusk. Yeah. And if you couldn't put it together by now, it's just like a rotating three seats, right? Like whenever dusk ends up dying, they wake up a new one to be day. And it's just a complete genetic dynasty where it's the same. It's all based on Cleon the First. And they talk about it later this episode. Maybe it's in this scene. We're currently on the 12th Cleon, and it's just going to keep going. And I think they live longer than a normal person too. So that have that in the back of your head. But yeah, this guy who Lee Pace, I think, I'm not sure you got the vibe yet from the first episode. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But anytime we had podcast conversations about like Mount Rushmore of single performances, this guy comes to my head now, like as one of the newest additions, where he is so freaking good. And the whole genetic dynasty idea allows the show to continuously use the actor over and over as he's changing to become the new day, who whenever they go through the rotations. And it's amazing because he, to me, is the glue of the entire show. And I just thought that even just in this first episode, he does a great job. So it's just a cool idea. And what do you guys think about the genetic dynasty?
All right, fine. Luke gets to be day. I guess I'll have to be dawn because I'm the youngest, and Jimmy gets to be the old guy, dusk.
I'm the old geezer, bro.
Yeah, you're the temperamental geezer who wants to kill everyone all the time.
Your boy Dusk is over here, and I got some things to say about the Emperor clone. So let me ask you this question, Luke. And I guess this is me just wanting to know answers, and you probably say I can't answer this for you, but you said that it's kind of rotating, and that's assumed, like you said, so there's no spoilers there. So we have Brother Dawn, Brother Day, and Brother Dusk. If Brother Dusk passes away, does Brother Day automatically move to Dusk, and then the kid Dawn has to become Day at that point, or can they control for the most part how long their lives are?
There's more nuance to it.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, and that will obviously you'll
Also,
see case studies and play out of that.
Also, Luke, do they not have belly buttons?
I don't know. Why are you saying that?
So, because Brother Day comes out looking great with no shirt on at one point. I just don't think he had a belly button unless his shirt was or his pants were very hiked up, or I was watching on my phone because I had to, and maybe I didn't notice.
With that.
I know. But anyone who's listening, let me know.
I don't think
you
so.
have a belly button.
I would say they're normal.
Yeah, what would be the point of having a belly button?
Well,
a belly button is
the
a
umbilical cord
consequence of having an umbilical cord. Would the clones even need an umbilical cord?
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess
Luke.
I'm keeping an eye out for it now. You just got to take his shirt off more, and then we'll get a confirmation.
Luke, does he do it? Does he take his shirt off more? Give me that spoiler.
Yes.
Okay.
At some point.
He seems a little vain. He definitely seems a little vain. I think big takeaway from a lot of this stuff was 14 hours on that ride down from the station. I didn't see a bathroom or a porta potty. Like, we're all just sitting in this glass box for 14 hours together. I was like, holy crap. No snacks. It wasn't like there was like a bar you could stop at beforehand. Like, that's pretty crazy. It's a long fucking time.
Sad thing is we never get to find out because it gets destroyed at the end of this episode, but I would love to know what the elevator ride's actually like.
Yeah, and they have the little girl next to Gail says, I'm going to stay up the entire time. And before you realize it's a 14-hour thing. And I'm like, oh, great, girl. Like, cool. 2 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes. What? Good for you. No, 14 hours. You need to get some sleep, man. You got some stuff to do. Gail wants to stay awake. I get it. It's new and exciting, but you got to get some rest. You're about to talk to Harry here.
Mm-hmm. And
I didn't have you calling out the young child on my bingo card.
This is probably a good time for me to say this because from what I hear, and this is all, secondhand knowledge, and specifically from Chase, or the friend that gifted Kyle the book, the genetic dynasty is not a thing in the books, which to me is one of the coolest aspects of this entire show. It might still be like the same family, but it's not necessarily like a clone situation of what we have like presented here. And I think that is crazy because that's one of the coolest parts of the entire show.
That's very interesting.
Doesn't that look like a guy being cloned, like an old guy in a little cloning machine?
Maybe it is. I don't know, but I can't.
I'm
Look,
just
That's what
saying
don't
she
blow my
said.
mind here.
that's just
So
funny. Yeah,
I
I would have
will,
looked at that cover and been like, oh, okay, that's the clone.
yeah, and I will say when Harry is talking, and well, obviously we're jumping around. This is what's going to happen with us being rookies. But when Harry's talking to the clones, to the emperors, he says the thing that is going to limit this dark age is if you stop your cloning. And then Dusk is like, get the hell out of here.
Yes. So let me say that again. I think that like I'm taking genetic dynasty as meaning like cloning of the same person over and over, but I think that's what's different. I still think it's the same family that is in charge of the empire in the books. But again, I'm just
Yeah.
speaking out of secondhand knowledge here. Either way, I just wanted to bring that up. Let's jump back into
Okay.
Trantor here. We don't have to talk about this now, but you do get introduced quickly to Harry Seldon and then Raish for a second, who are stressing. We'll talk about their introductions in the next scene. And then you go over to the Empire. And this is where you start to get a feel for his personality. He's really cutthroat. He's very obviously against any sort of conspiracies that are starting to spread, which seems to be background plot that happened off screen before this episode, which is Harry Seldon's idea of his predictions kind of spreading throughout
Right.
society, and it's getting back. So we're already kind of starting in media res where it's already happening, right? So you also see here you get introduced to the mural wall. That's always, it's going to come back and forth, and there's like the special chroma coloring of it too. That's just like a random thing that's just there. But we're also introduced in this part too to the different races, or I guess species of humans on the different outer planets, where we get introduced to the Anacreons and then the Thespies. Forgive me for pronunciations, but a lot of this world building gets set up here, and you're really finding out how the Empire views other people and how he just, he seems very superior compared to everybody else. But anything you guys want to bring up from the initial introduction, besides, I guess you also get to meet uh Demerzel. Demerzel. I'm still working on pronunciations again, only seen
Yeah.
this once or twice. You get to meet the main servant who's kind of with the three brothers, Day, Dusk, and Dawn.
Yeah. You find out all you need to know about Brother Day in the scene where he blows up the guy who was working for him for 70 plus years, who seemed to very much so love his work and love working for the Emperor. And Brother Day's just like, well, I'm telling you in person, blow him up.
Yeah.
Crazy. So you get that introduction. You're like, all right, we got an antagonist here. We got a good antagonist.
That would be like a great job to secure. I feel like to be the guy that just
blower
cleans
upper.
the mirror. No, yeah. I mean, no, not that one. I can have that on my conscience.
Oh, well, that's why I was like, whoa, what are you talking about?
The guy that just cleans the murals. I love how they throw in the line where he's like, yeah, I've been back and forth, I think 3 times at this point. Like he's just gone. He just starts back at the beginning and then goes all the way through all of them and then starts back at the beginning and goes all the way over again.
Yeah.
The chroma part, I think was so it just triggered like Warbreaker.
Yep.
Biochroma.
Yeah.
100%.
That's all I could think about when they said that, for sure. But all the colors and all that stuff. So that's
Love
just
that
fun.
look.
But
shout out Brandon Sanderson.
I'm just really looking forward to hopefully more. I really like the scenes where it's kind of the private-ish conversations of the 3 of them, where like they're kind of teaching Dawn about things, and Day's very astute in a way of, they're picking up on these things. And then also he's very kind of carefree and he's kind of a bastard a little bit too. So it'll be interesting to see how the shuffling of them happens. And like, are they all the same? They all act the same way, and like, well, if we meet new days, will they all be that way? Will there be small personality tweaks? And like, will if it's Day or Dawn rather that shifts into Day, will like the teachings always result in like the same version of Day? And then when this Day becomes, if let's say this is the scenario where this Day becomes Dusk in the future, like, will he act in a different way than the one that we know now? And that's just stuff will be interesting, because I just really like little conversations they have of like teaching him being Dawn, the political kind of machinations, all these teachings and things like that.
It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'd like to see maybe if it's possible some kind of flashback or some kind of explanation of how they're taught to buy into this rotating thing, because you see Brother Day, He seems like you said everything that you explained, Kyle, but also arrogant as well. I wonder if he'll be reluctant to want to give up his spot as seemingly the main emperor to Dawn. I would feel like this kind of characteristic of an emperor, meaning again Day, would be like, nah, I think I'm pretty good at being the leader. I don't know if I want Dawn to come in unless it's a forced thing. Like you say, and that's what you said they'll explain, but if Dusk dies, if this is how it works, if Dusk dies, and that means Day automatically has to rotate to Dusk and Dawn has to become Day, and then they have to have another clone come in as Dawn, Day might still be younger than, he could be of this age. And he's like, yo, no, I'm not rotating. Like that kind of stuff I want to see, because the characteristics of these characters, especially Day, seems like he would be resistant to that. Giving
You
up
guys
power.
are doing it for me right now. My God, these questions and these thought processes amazing. I wish I was a rookie.
So you're saying potential. So if this is true, then when we get to season 2, it looks like Jimmy's gonna die at the end of our season 1 coverage.
Yeah,
Luke's then gonna get promoted to Dusk. I'll get
and then I
promoted to
become
Day. And
Dawn.
Jimmy's Dawn for season 2. Yeah.
Season 3, I'm the big dog. I'm Day in season 3, man.
Yeah. I'm the old guy that gets to drink and act crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of what you guys are talking about, most of it gets touched on in some way or another, but it's such an interesting concept. And that's pretty much what drove me to keep watching the show the most, is like this whole concept around the genetic dynasty. I think it's such a genius idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I really want to say shout out to Lee Pace. Like, I feel like he's a great actor who's the main Day.
And that brings a great question that Kyle was saying with the nature versus nurture side of things. Like, say Brother Day is a shitty ass teacher. Does that mean Brother Dawn's going to become a shitty ass Brother Day when it's time? Or are they genetically cloned to be almost pretty much just the same characteristics every single time? When it's this advanced technologically, could they do that? It's like Westworld or any other sci-fi thing where you can literally just like adjust what you want them to be like in their characteristics before they are birthed or whatever, created as a clone.
Okay, let's move this conversation along to the introduction of our next 2 main characters that I already hinted at. That would be Raish, who's going to bring Gale throughout the planet and to meet Harry Seldon in the library. And this is the first real introduction of the psychohistory philosophy and the predicting of the future, which is always just about predicting large scale patterns, not ever individual patterns. And that's like super important and always gets reinforced. But this whole first initial conversation, because you get a lot out of this, especially with Harry just being super impressed with how smart Gale is, and how he ended up getting her to come to Trantor.
She also seems like, again, now that we're after the episode and we can kind of talk back through things, it's now kind of clicking to me as well, in that, like, when Harry ends up saying a little bit later on that Gale wasn't the bait, the Abraxas problem, right?
Equation. Yeah.
Equation problem was actually the bait. And they talk about it. And then when we were talking and thinking about the scene, I kind of clicked for me in that it's because she discovered the mathematical theorem that was the key to breaking the problem, because the writing itself was poetic, and that she was able to see kind of the pattern within the writing, which then is a sign of like the pattern level recognition, which obviously then puts her in the position that Harry's in of the large scale pattern. This is the way I'm taking it all.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, it just seems all very thought out. It's complex. It's smart. The connections, and it just feels like there's obviously going to be a lot of other things that happen. Harry clearly has a plan about what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see where the pieces that we get introduced in at some parts throughout the series will then click in later on as things all kind of come to fruition and stuff like that. It was honestly surprising to me, and it's great, I would say, drama to tension of kind of the matter of factness of this conversation where he's like, yeah, we're going to be arrested tomorrow.
Yeah. And
it was like, whoa, my girl just won a math contest. Like, I thought we were coming here to party. And it's just like, no, nothing like that.
And going towards her character being so similar to Harry with the logic side of things, they can have this matter of fact conversation where, yes, she's going to be like what the hell, dude? But at the same time, as time goes on, everything gets logicked out by her as well, and she understands what's going on. My question to you, Luke, if you can answer, is if you're not an emperor, just say you're Harry, what is a lifespan? Do we know this? Do we find this out of a person?
I don't
Is
think
this a
it's
spoiler to tell
anything
me? Okay,
extraordinarily
because the
different. Yeah.
reason why I ask is because he said no one in 500 years has tried this to be able to solve the equation or the problem or whatever. So I was like, wait, has he been trying to do this for 500 years, looking for the person, or is this just, you know, what he just knows 500 years? But my
Mhm.
also assumption, based on the end of the episode, is that he won't make it 35 years in the future, but you can't tell me that. But I'm just saying, based on how she was speaking, I'm thinking he doesn't make it.
Yeah, he kind of moves like I don't want to say a dead man walking, but the combination of like that assuredness
Mhm.
in a way that he kind of knows, at least again, the broad strokes of what will happen. And he also seems like someone that would quite quickly come to terms with the fact that if he saw in the numbers that he was going to die, he would just completely accept that and that it's the number said it. So
I mean, and even so, like, he's not a young guy. So you say 35 years, he could die of natural causes. I mean, I don't know if he's 50, 60, 70 at this point, but 35 years. I mean, she says in her narrative at the end of the episode, Harry would have never, or something like that, basically talking about him in the past tense.
Mhm. And I just shouted out Lee Pace for his acting, but I think Jared Harris, who plays Harry Seldon, is a powerhouse in this show too. Like he is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
such a scene stealer, and it's for the reason that you brought up, Kyle. Like it's such an attractive quality in a character of anything to just have that level of confidence where you know exactly what you're doing. Like he's pretty much just such a driver of the story, and just his mathematics is such a cool concept. I really enjoy every time Seldon's on the screen. But we'll see. We'll see some answers to your guys' questions in the future episodes. So let's move on a little bit. We don't have to talk much about the Gale visiting the church, the one church that's on this planet that's related to the religion from her home planet. That can get brought up later if you guys really want, but she's considered a heretic for the obvious reasons of having rebelled against the religion, and that's fine. Let's go and jump right into the trial, because this is where, for me, things really start to heat up. And I'll just say some of the big lore dumps that we get from Logain, right? Was that not
now,
Logain?
no,
Oh,
No,
this
damn,
he's
I thought it
He's the
was.
Martell from Game of
is Doran
Thrones.
Martell.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Yeah,
god,
yeah,
yes. I knew it was on the tip of my tongue. He kind of does look like Logain a little bit though, right?
yeah. He
Yeah,
looks
well,
yeah.
incredibly
yeah, yeah,
familiar with it. He's in Peaky Blinders too. He's in a lot of stuff.
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Damn, I'm pissed. I mixed that up. But you're so right.
Yeah.
He is a Martell. Okay, so this whole trial scene, some of the things that come up, which are all off the back of Harry Seldon defending his whole philosophy and the mathematics of this all. He does say that within 5 centuries, Trantor and the Empire will fall in ruin, which of course makes everybody in the room pissed off. But some of the background world building that gets dropped here too are that the Imperium has been around for 12,000 years, to kind of give you some sort of date of where we are in humanity. Then he goes on to say that the fall of the empire and like humanity, it's going to affect 10,000 worlds. It's going to bring all of those worlds to radioactive cinders, and it's unpreventable. One of the coolest selling points of the story is that it's unpreventable. It's going to last 30,000 years unless they listen to Harry and they set up this foundation, which he can then shorten the dark age to about 1,000 years. So it's like the way he's talking about this is amazing, where it's like, this is basically happening. Like, let's not
Yeah.
discuss if it's going to happen versus not. Let's try and fix it for the future of humanity. And I just felt like this was awesome to see, and this really set the stakes of the whole entire show, because this is how the series was sold to me by Chase. Like, yeah, like humanity's going to fall, it's inevitable, and like how this played out, I thought did a good job.
This is like the meme of where you like sit forward when you're playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like he starts talking and saying all these things, and it was like, yeah, go on.
Yeah.
What's the next? What's the next thing you're gonna say that's gonna get me all fucking pumped here? Like, keep going.
Yep. Yep.
I really like it, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, and then Jimmy, say whatever you may say. But I just like the little toss in there of like the Library of Alexandria, like back in like humanity's past, when he mentions that of the ancients were rumored to have built a repository for knowledge that ended up being burned down. Just cool. Like we're kind of getting a little bit of centering, and that these are kind of humans that have evolved from civilization and society on Earth to kind of colonize the galaxy, let's say. It is interesting, though, that we talk Empire, and then it's Galactic Empire, and then we have Imperium, and I'm sure people that aren't like maybe well-versed in fantasy stuff are probably watching this episode like, okay, which one is it? Like, why are we using all these different terms to say what it is?
They call him Empire, like his
His name is
yeah.
Empire. Yeah, well, his title, I guess, but
That's more of like a symbolic thing, right? Because like he is
yeah,
the Empire.
Yes. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So again, we have a scenario here where I'm thinking in my head, we have these 3 clones. I don't know how long these clones live for. Do they have a longer lifespan than humans, or are they just clones of humans and have a similar lifespan? You see someone like Brother Day and you know, Brother Dawn, Brother Dusk, but specifically Brother Day Empire. I just keep seeing the arrogant side of him and the nonchalant side of him, and my thoughts here, and we'll get to this in a second because Harry does know what to say to him, but does he care? Because it won't be in his lifetime, right? Will he even be, and that's a confusing thing to say, right? Because he is the same person over and over, but him personally, how has he bought into this? Does he see himself as Cleon the First over and over and over and over? So if the Empire falls in 500 years, is it technically him? Is it on him? Or is he saying, I'm my own guy and I'll be dead, so who cares, right? But then Harry does say, this is your legacy. This is what matters. Yeah. And that is something that will touch at him because of his being as arrogant as he is. But yeah, I was thinking about that during this entire conversation because, you know, you have Day and Dusk pretty much being like, yo, you're causing some mayhem, bro. So the prosecutor's doing most of the talking here. And in the original conversation, the Empires, the clones, what are we going to call them as a group?
The Cleons. It could be the the Cleons work.
Okay. Cleons, they are watching from somewhere else at first, right? But my thoughts would be, based on what the prosecutor's saying, based on what they say later, is that, you know, you're causing mayhem, you're causing problems. We don't know if this is actually true, and it's not imminent to us. 500 years is a long time from now, and you're throwing out magic numbers of 30,000 years and blah, 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 blah. That was how I'm taking it from the side of the Cleons. And you know, that's why Harry and Gale are so different, because they're seeing the mathematical calculations and they're seeing the logic and things, and they're caring about civilization in general, no matter how far ahead it is.
Yeah. And like the whole linking to the next trial scene, which happens kind of the next day, like Gale gets told the reason why the Empire cares about her. They know she's one of the only people that can also understand the mathematics of this. So they're offering her a chance to basically go and prove Harry wrong and put the Empire's minds at ease. And then she'll go and live like a normal life. Or she can stay true to herself and then actually think through the calculations and come to the same agreement that Harry did, because he's obviously being super objective about all of this and caring about what the math is actually saying. And I'm sure it wasn't a surprise to either of you that Gale ends up taking the side of math and taking Harry's side and telling the court that, yeah, she can't prove anything wrong. But then she goes on to say to Day himself that they need to keep Harry alive in order to make the fall lesser. So how did you take all of that? And also, did you think, am I wrong in assuming, did you guys think that she was definitely going to be on Harry's side, or did you think there was a chance she was going to flip?
No, I took it like she was going to be on Harry's side. And I don't know, Kyle, did you take it like after we find out some of the answers a little bit later when Harry and Gale are speaking and he kind of gives his plan, did you take this as a test to see if she would take his side, to see if she's worthy, quote unquote, Luke, everybody drink, of being a part of this Foundation plan?
I'll be honest, that thought never entered my mind until you just said the words. So I can't.
Okay.
I can't lie and say I even considered that.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me ask you this question. Raish comes into her room and says, you can pull back. You said yes. you're on Harry's side, but you could say, never mind. I relooked at the calculation and I'm against him now. He's wrong. Raish is on Harry's side, of course, but she says you're losing faith. Well, how did you take that, Kyle? How did you take him? Was he just caring about her personally, or was he actually losing faith in the scenario, or was it another test?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, I just got my eye on this guy. He's not like totally solid across the board in my humble opinion, my humble rookie / brother day opinion. Again, though, at this point, like I wasn't thinking that like they're in there to test her.
Right.
Again, because again, Harry just moves like somebody that kind of just knows essentially what's going to happen. But also at the same time, maybe she is this outlier, the individuals and things like that. So
yeah, so I don't know. They didn't really show us too much about Raish when it comes to does he have the same abilities that Harry and Gale do. Obviously, he wouldn't be as intelligent because then Gale wouldn't need to exist because then they would have the second person. But obviously, he believes in Harry and he believes in what he's doing. It's just my wonder was if his faith was actually wavering or if he was just being overprotective of Gale. Gale says he's cute. She likes Dean Thomas.
Got a crush on him. Very charming guy.
Yeah, oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
you don't like him.
You gotta watch out.
You're too arrogant, dude. I'm wise. You're arrogant. I'm a Raish guy.
Well, Luke's arrogant. I'm just a newbie. I'm naive. I'm just trying.
Oh, you're Dawn. I forgot. I thought you were Day. You're Dawn, so you don't know shit, bro.
You know, handsome, the handsomeness, the hair. You know, I look more like Lee Bass.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Is that why? That's probably why. Right?
Show me your belly button. I want to know if you have one.
Oh no, I got that Kyle XY going on, so you can't tell. It wouldn't be confirmation or not.
Oh my
God.
Is
a deep cut.
Okay, so after Gale takes Harry's side and proclaims to the entire world that his calculations are correct, they get sentenced, and then this is when we have the moment that came out of nowhere for me. And this is the entire terrorism act that destroys the Star Bridge. And I'll just completely open the door for you guys. Thoughts? Did this come out of nowhere for you guys too? And like, how did you react? Because I thought this was some of the best CGI I've seen in a pilot, like ever. This whole entire process.
To hit that first, the CGI looked fantastic. But I think, again, what I talked about at the start of like, this is such a great pilot of what a great like B plot. That just it has a fantastic episode of like the outer world, barbarians having their political strife. It's used to world build a little bit, and then it's used to show us the kind of deliberations that happen between the Cleons and where they're teaching Day about the fact that, you know, that 25% of the thing is palladium, so it's a covert offer, and then the bow has no metal, and they're saying to them that they don't have any metal, and then we get into and Harry even mentions it in his speech of like when he's trying to lend a little bit of credence to what he's saying when he says like consider recent events in the outer reach, and then it comes around here where they come and, you know, they bomb both things. But it's also interesting in that were they working together, because aren't these two worlds supposed to be at each other's throats a little bit? So then is it what's actually the deal here? You know, is it more of like a revolutionary thing where there's more than just these two worlds are involved, and like the higher ups in these worlds are against each other, but it's the people are creating a solidarity movement against the empire as a whole, and the implications for that, and also it then creates kind of this scenario in where maybe Day, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking of myself of. No, Day, I was. Okay. Jeez, I'm thinking I'm Lee Pace. I'm going crazy. But where it's a little bit easier for him to agree to what Harry wants, and that he sees firsthand what could happen, and it hits so close to home. And it just was, I think, a masterfully executed B plot that really ended up playing such a huge role in this episode.
Drop the mic, bro. Podcast is over. That was great. Greatly said. I would love to know the lineup of Apple TV shows, especially sci-fi, before Foundation, because Apple TV was just like, yo, here's all the money, do the damn thing. My goodness, it looked so freaking good. And to your point, Kyle, I mean, it's pretty convenient that the day this is all happening, or within the few days that this is all happening, where Harry is saying, he even says to Gail when they're having a one-on-one, take this, and she says, no, I can't take this. He's like, it's gonna all burn one day, right? Well, things are burning left and right. The Star Bridge is burning, falling to the ground. 100 million people die on the same day or days that Harry is telling the world, pretty much the universe. I don't know how many people can actually watch that, but that everything is going to shit and dark ages are coming. Very crazy stuff. Not that I think Harry's involved in it or anything, but I'm just saying there is the convenience, and there's the fact that he is able to logic out certain things and probabilities. He does say to Brother Day, I didn't have anything to do with this. This is individual. And I'm not going to say quote unquote, Luke. I'm just going to do it to the screen. This is an individual matter. And it is interesting to see what individual means. Is it, when do we get to a larger population where psycho history actually is something that you can predict? But either way, man, very, very interesting stuff. I'm excited to see where this goes. And obviously they caused this explosion with this terrorist attack. And now when they get sent to Terminus, which we'll get into in a little bit, they're going to be near them, correct?
Well, they said that they're going to be on the outer planets, one of the outer reach planets, which is where these guys are also from. And I think they say it in this episode. I sometimes forget, but I think it's all within the same galaxy. Like they're talking about saving the galaxy, but like, yeah, these are the outer reach planets, the barbarians and all that. Just keep that in the back of your mind, because like this type of politics is going to be very important for how they go about the rest of this story. And you guys are picking up on all the right things, right? Like Day immediately, of course, is going to blame these two warring planets,
civilizations, species,
civilizations.
yeah,
I think they're still humans. It's just evolved humans, like Dune type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he tries to blame them, and then of course he wants to say that everything that's happening is pretty convenient for Harry to get what he wants. And same thing with whatever Gale ends up telling him about the shutting down of the genetic dynasty to soften the blow, and listening to Harry. And because if they kill Harry, it's going to speed it all up. Like it all kind of seems timely. So from Day's perspective, I understand why he's just throwing these accusations out at Harry, and then also at the same time in the back of his head blaming these other civilizations. Because why would you not? Like this is all kind of happening in the same week that you're being told that the empire is going to fall. So it's just like a lot of good things culminating together, and it just makes for such an epic pilot that I feel like I could recommend this to anybody, that they would just pick it up and just love it. And I knew you two specifically would really enjoy it, because it's the perfect mixture of like deep world building with like great acting, and then Apple. Who doesn't love Apple now? Like with just how
I know the core podcast loves Apple, dude.
Yeah, of course.
I know we do.
One of the things that they said about the starship falling that really puts the planet into the Star Bridge falling, that really puts the planet into context, is they say that the bridge literally wrapped around the entire planet and it went down 50 levels, implying that there's way more than 50 levels. But that's just such a crazy idea of how big this thing is and how deep into the future we are. But yeah, man, that would be devastating.
100 million people dead, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Big number. Big number. And I was like, whoa. And I did the math, and it's 0.001% of the empire. So I could see Day being like, but it's also, it happened on their, on their jaunt.
Right.
So
on their turf, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something interesting that's connecting some dots that may not need to be connected, but Kyle, you're talking about rebellion and, are these two warring civilizations? What's the reason that they join forces at the same exact time to blow up the Star Bridge? And, we also have the connection of Harry saying to Brother Day, the way we could stop this dark age is to basically stop this cloning and basically stop your rule almost. Is it literally going to be this full-on high-scale rebellion of an entire, I don't even know, multiple galaxies, however you want to say it, against the Empire, and that's what causes or would have caused this dark age? I don't know.
And one of the things he says here too is that the reason he's obviously against the stopping the genetic dynasty is he wants to continue ruling forever. But he does say that all the way back in Cleon the first time, the genetic dynasty is what stopped succession wars, which is a really cool, just little tidbit, because they wouldn't have gotten this deep they wouldn't have advanced this much as as human civilization without doing it. But now it's going to be the downfall into a quicker dark age, which Harry's obviously trying to stop. And then when Day kind of rolls over and allows this foundation to take place, he's going to give him Terminus, which is on the outer reach, where it's just outside the Empire's eyes, but it's still within the Empire's rule. And this is where Harry kind of lays it out like, yeah, this was one of the big stroke moments that can be predicted, and he knew it was coming. That's what Gale kind of puts together. So that's like a cool idea, is no matter what was going to happen to Harry, he thought that this was going to play out just because of the math.
Well, the genetic cloning being the downfall just makes a ton of sense too, in that Harry's talking and he says, you're spread too thin, like things aren't, people sense vulnerability. It's not like everything's great for everyone. And when it's just the same 3 people essentially at the top, you move on from this like system of politics of having an emperor is the issue, and instead it just becomes those 3 people are the issue. It goes beyond just the fact that we have an emperor is our issue. It's actually the fact that those 3 individuals are the issue. And yeah, I can see people being fed up, and it's a much easier target of people's animosities in that sense too. And I'm also thinking out loud, he says that like, war cries or religious language or whatever was heard before the events. And I'm also thinking, how? Everyone that was in that box going down with the one guy totally died, and everyone that was around the dude who blew up the, let's say, the TSA station part also probably died. And okay, maybe it's technologically where they have like camera recordings and
that's what I was
audio
thinking.
stuff.
Little bird.
But also, I mean, is it just him? Is he just saying
bullshitting?
That? Yeah, like he could just be saying that, where it's like, oh, it's an isolated incident about these 2 planets who hate each other, versus is it actually a symptom of what Harry's saying of people? It's a large movement beyond just this individual conflict.
And is it a spoiler for me to ask you, Luke?
Brother
Dawn,
bro, for Brother Dusk. You're supposed to know it all.
I know, Brother Dawn. I'm not asking you shit, bro. So when you chill, Brother Dusk wants to know. So Brother, and this is not me coming at you, Kyle, but Brother Dawn as the child, I wouldn't include in this, but Brother Day seems to be the actual leader. Can you say Brother Day and Brother Dusk are equals, or would you say that when Brother's Day's time is up and he becomes Brother Dusk, he is now no longer the equal? He's, he gets a say, but Day's the leader.
Day is the leader.
Okay, so this is my question for the 1,000th time in this episode. I just feel like it's going to be very interesting. I don't see why there's no succession issue with them internally. Like why, like, again, if Brother Dusk dies right now and they need to start the rotation, I feel like Brother Day would be like, whoa, man, I'm doing pretty damn good at leading. You really want me? And also, how do they age him up that quick, dude? How do they make him grow that beard and stuff? I mean, I know that these questions are going to be answered, but that's something that I'm very interested in, just because they say there's no succession wars anymore, but I do feel like it would be an internal succession issue. How many times have we seen Game of Thrones alike that the current king or somebody who's going to usurp or whatever doesn't want the child to grow up?
Yeah.
But they are somehow bought in. They're bought in. You see Brother Day and you see Brother Dusk, Brother Dusk talking to Brother Dawn, teaching him, making sure he's ready to go when his time is here. And I mean, it's very cool to watch, and I want to know why. I want to know why they're
asking
down
the right
with that.
questions. That's all I'll say.
I like asking the right questions, dude.
Let me just open it up to the end here and give you guys a chance to put anything else on the board, because we're pretty much at the end, right? Like after that, the scenes we just talked through, the only other thing is we flash back to Terminus. Now we have a little bit more knowledge. We see the plate card of the Foundation on Terminus, which is cool. We know it's 35 years in the future, and we have a little bit more information about just like how this was always the plan. And we're going to see how we end up on this planet and what that actually means for how far in the future we're going to be jumping at points. But it does seem that the narrator Gale jumps back in and says that the galaxy's entire fate was going to rest on what Salvor found inside the vault. And that's pretty much how it plays out. So the next time we talk on this podcast, it's going to be with episodes 2, 3, 4, 5 under our belt, which is a lot of content because you guys could see how much was built into this hour and a 10-minute pilot. So now is the time if you want anything else on the board so you can get your flowers and take your victory laps. Because I know Jimmy's Theory Town always, but it's tough with what we've been given because life is going to be so much different.
I'm going to have
the future.
I'm going to be going ham when it's episode 9 into episode 10 with theories, but I do know we've learned our lesson with dark matter, Silo, trying to make theories in episode 1 is fun as hell, but it's hilarious how wrong you are once we get into the further episodes. But some things that I just didn't want to gloss over. What is the thing called? The instrument that he was using to show his calculations?
You're right. We should have brought this up. The Prime Radiant. It's going to be a very important piece that comes back. It's almost like a physical representation of psychohistory.
Yeah. So it was really cool that he subtly shows it to her, shows her how he turns it on, for lack of a better term. And then when he talks to her later, he says, "How many times did it take you to get it?" And she says 2. And he's like looking pretty impressed, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll find anybody else in this world's not the right answer, but in this, all these universes, in this scenario of Foundation, if there's going to be other people that can be as intelligent as Gale and Hari. But Hari does speak with Gale. I know I said Hari. Get off my ass, dude.
It was just funny that you used both words.
I said Hari, then I said Harry.
Harry.
I didn't feel like correcting myself, but now we just wasted 10 seconds of laughing because I was Dust.
And now it's got to stay in because it was funny.
Yeah, I'm getting old, man. You gotta let me make my mistakes. But Harry, when he's talking to Gale, he says, like, this was the plan. This is the best case scenario. This is the scenario I was hoping for. Probability wise, we're going to go to Terminus. He talks to her. He says, you wanted to save your planet. This is where we get the explanation of her saying that she saw the water levels rising and they basically called her a heretic because of it. He says, you wanted to save your planet. Well, will you settle for saving galaxies? And she's in, which I really like her as a main character. I think she's going to be really fun to watch. And, we get her voiceover. I really don't know if it's worth giving like a theory on what's in the vault, but I will say that my theory that I'm putting on the board is 35 years later, Harry's not going to be around. I think we're going to get we're going to have plenty of time with him because we're going to see what happens within the 35 years. But my guess would be whether it's natural causes because he's older or just a lot of the dangers of being who he is. I don't think he's going to make it because she was speaking in the past tense. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that it is created, I don't know if we're saying that Harry created it with Gale and that thing is a vault that is waiting for somebody special to be able to enter it. But then, she's saying in her narrative, she didn't know, or Harry may not have known, or did he know that the world is going to be, civilization is going to hang on the fact that this person can get into the vault and find what's in there. I don't know. What do you think, Kyle?
But also, why would we want someone to be able to access it only 35 years later? Like, if the thing has to hang around for,
that's
100 years, you know what I mean? Like, if it's going to, if the fall is going to happen in, let's say, 500
another 450 years.
If the cloning starts, and then if it's going to last 1,000 years, and then the Foundation is going to be what makes it only last 1,000 years, I guess we need it. We need it in 500 years. So, like, what is the benefit of someone 35 years along being able to access it? But it's also, how can you stop anyone from accessing it? But also, Harry seems like a guy who knows kind of what's going to go down.
Hey, man,
so then it's
individuals,
like,
bro. Individuals.
Well, also, I could see the benefit of creating more of a culture around the Foundation so that it is something that has this kind of, let's say, insulation of culture around it and where people respect it and are aware of it and are interested in the stewardship of it. Because I feel like just leaving one thing on one planet isn't the most effective way to save knowledge. It seems like it's not the most fail-safe way to go about that. So we'll just have to see. Like, was it almost everything feels like it's going to be one piece of a larger puzzle. So we'll just have
Yeah.
to see. This is so funny that I had this in my notes because I was, let's say, paradoxically so locked in that I wasn't locked in at all. That I was like, when we have Harry and he's explaining to Gale that like everything was planned, and I was like, yo, it's crazy, like so cool. And then we get Salvor Hardin like kind of accessing the vault, and I was like, oh shit, like is this after the dark, like where the show is going to take place on 2 timelines, and where it's like people dealing with the knowledge that Harry saved, and then we're watching the process of him trying to save it. And then I was like, no, this is only 35 years ago. I thought I had like cracked this show was going to be great. I mean, it's going to be crazy no matter what, but I was like, that's so funny that I literally thought that.
That's such a Brother Dawn thing to say of you, man.
Well, I'm naive. You know this. I'm
Nah,
still
dude,
learning.
I love all,
Lots
I
to
know,
learn.
seriously. I love all that, man. And Harry does say he drops Encyclopedia Galactica, correct? Is that the yeah, so Encyclopedia Galactica, are we saying, figuratively, literally, whatever, that's what's being protected in the vault? You're bringing up the fact that why would Harry want Salvor Hardin to be able to get in there within 35 years? They are harping on the fact that, individuals can't guess when this is going to happen with the probability. Maybe they know probability wise that these people will exist throughout time, and this is just somebody that's early. But also maybe there's a situation where, yes, maybe it's not necessarily needed to be accessed when the darkness starts. Could it be that it's a fail safe? It's something that you need in anticipation to get something, the ball rolling on something, a band-aid for when the huge issue happens, and then the dark ages are going to be coming, stop the bleeding instead of trying to fix a wound after the fact, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could think about it too of an encyclopedia. Okay, well, an encyclopedia to me feels like it means many, like multiple, like a series of volumes. And like, is the vault that we've seen here, is it again one piece
One of
of a
many. I
series of
like that.
things? Is it? I mean, this isn't a crazy One Piece spoiler, but like, are we to think about it like a poneglyph, and where it's like a part of the human history, and that, but also, is that the best way to go about saving this history for humanity, of like leaving it in chunks around the galaxy, that like, okay, if 10,000 planets are going to turn to radioactive cinders, like how many do we know which planets those are? Because we probably shouldn't pop a vault onto one of those bad boys, because what if that's the secret to nuclear fission, and it's like, all right, well shit, we're screwed there.
Well,
So
like you said, Kyle, he brought up the Library of Alexandria burning down. Everything was all in one spot. Maybe the answer is to spread it out so that it can't all be destroyed in one shot. I don't know.
You guys are great.
yeah, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see how it all manifests. Like Foundation as well, just as a concept, like part of me feels like that. Is it a foundation of knowledge? Is it, but also could it be the foundation of, again, this like cultural, societal aspect of things? Because we know that he has a little bit of a following on the planet. They call him the Raven. We see that the mural cleaner is kind of part of that a little bit. And it feels beneficial as well to create this kind of, I don't want to say an organization, but again, this widespread level of cultural and societal, civilizational acceptance, buy-in around all of it as well. It just feels like it ups the odds, but also maybe it corrupts the odds, in that it's kind of leaves you at the whims of whoever is actually a part of that and things like that. So again, it'll just be very interesting to see how his idea and the plan and such manifest in terms of protecting this knowledge.
I love it. And my last question as Brother Dusk would be, when they went to Terminus, when they were sentenced to Terminus, obviously Harry knew that Terminus existed. Gale didn't know that it existed. Was it supposed to be just like a straight up empty planet, or was there, like, there's obviously kids on there now, 35 years later. Was there supposed to be assumed that there are some people there, or do we not know that answer yet? Or
No, it was he purposely, well, he didn't purposely pick it out. The math told him that going there as the foundation is a key to the puzzle to soften the blow for the Dark Ages. So you're going to learn a lot about it, obviously. So
yeah.
I don't want to say too much about it, but
Yeah.
no, I don't think there was any like pre-built civilizations that were there that are relevant.
So
Okay. So
the
they're
reason
coming
I'm
along the
asking is
ride.
right.
Say
So
it
what
again?
reason I'm asking is like, do they? I mean, there's those two go to an empty planet, and then now there's kids and there's people there. I mean, did they gather people to come to this planet? I'm not. I see your eyes, Kyle. I'm not going there,
Brother
dude.
Dusk, what are you insinuating?
But I'm saying, like, I mean, I mean, you could be saying like we're going into the dark ages. Is the foundation like an entirely new civilization that's going to be the ones that can have the knowledge, and he's handpicking people to live on Terminus with them, and then they grow and learn throughout their lives and
I'll
etc.
say anything you're questioning right now, Harry and the Prime Radiant have thought through.
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
freaking Harry has, man.
Yeah.
There's
Let me see it,
plans, and
Har.
you're gonna
What's
get to
going
see it.
on, bro? Let me get a peek into that Prime Radiant, big dog.
Yeah.
Let me see what's going on, so I don't sound stupid on the podcast.
I mean, all we have to do, dude, is just read or watch ahead, you know, and then we
Brother
look like
Dusk, what is
badasses.
wrong with you? You're not
Then
yourself.
we look
sir.
like badasses, dude.
Is it time to
Yeah, big
retire,
brain
Brother
baddie.
Dusk?
Yeah,
baby.
we look like big brain baddies now. All
You
right,
just gotta
guys. I
make it to
mean,
episode 10, bro. Then you can be reborn in season 2.
I'll be reborn as but I'll be Brother
Yeah.
Dawn, and then you guys will be making fun of me for not knowing anything. See,
Just
dude,
saying,
when
don't
we're week
quack
to
out
week
on
though,
it.
I'm gonna be literally in my prime, man. I'm gonna be Empire straight up.
Yep.
I do have a
So-
parting shot, if that's okay with
Hit it.
you.
Of course.
Okay. I just want to call it the quote because in the moment I loved it, and then looking through my notes again, I really loved it. In that when Harry's talking to Day, say specifically, and he said when he's saying the way to decelerate the dark is to kind of stop the Imperial cloning things, with the quote being, "You offer nothing new, just a younger grape from the same vine, destined for the same old bottle." And I'm like, okay, obviously there's a wine motif there. But then when they introduced the clones and the Cleons, the quote is, and let me find it, it says, decantered at different ages, which again is a word that you would use when you would open a bottle of wine, essentially, so I don't think there's like a wine hint in there, I just like the terminology. I
not?
thought that it's the writing was very good there, and maybe there's two of the hint in what we're trying to dance around and figure out of like how does it actually happen with the Cleons. So I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, I mean I mean, for a second, my mind was blown because if they didn't have the entire storyline throughout this episode of Brother Day and Brother Dusk teaching Brother Dawn to eventually become Brother Day, I would wonder if they literally just have a kid, a current version, like a Brother Day version and an old version just sitting in a tube ready to be extracted when it's time to replace one if one dies. But it does seem like it's a rotation and one just moves along because of the way that they were teaching Brother Dawn. So we'll see.
Answers to come.
Answers to come, guys. All right. This was a blast. I can already tell we're going to have such a good time with this coverage. If you like what you heard, guys, please hit that subscribe button. Like we said throughout the podcast, we will be covering episodes 2 through 5 next. After that, 6 through 9. And then, of course, we'll finish with the finale. And then season 2, we'll let you guys know as we get closer. So if you're watching for the first time, follow along with the rookies. If you're a veteran, follow along with Luke, and love how me and Kyle just come up with some crazy theories and do our best to seem like Brother Day. We want to be Brother Day, right? No, I want to be Harry, actually. I'm Harry. But anyway, otherwise, guys, we're currently covering Murderbot. We're currently covering Murderbot on the podcast. We're having a great time. This is the same exact crew. Me, Luke, and Kyle are covering Murderbot, another sci-fi comedy-ish TV show. Very easily digestible, 25-ish minutes per episode. We're having fun with that as well. If you guys like The Last of Us, we're covering that on the Binge Empire podcast. Kyle is on that podcast currently with Dave and Brian, right, Kyle? With Dave and Brian. They have one more episode left with the finale, and then we'll be moving on to the next show for Binge Empire. And lastly, I forgot to say this, me and Kathleen are covering Your Friends and Neighbors. There's a lot going on the Core podcast. There's a lot going on around the Bingetown TV network. So Otherwise, guys, we'll be back. The Cleons will be back.